All right, hey, if you can have everyone just come down and sit on the floor, we'll sort of bring it in a bit, come down, floor, in. You can stay on the seat. I mean, I don't mean literally on the floor. I mean on the floor. So, awesome. All right, we're in the Kingdom Business Seminar session. My name's Matt Rendell. Oh, I love GC Church. Who's enjoying the conference? Yeah? Who's getting a lot out of it? Who's leaning into it? Because you should be the same people, hey? That was a deep thought. Yes, Christian. That's good. Well, fantastic. We're going to get straight into this. So we've got the incredible, extraordinaire Spearsy, as in Australia, right here. And a very talented Pastor Ben Staines. Good looking guys, aren't they? Hey, do you want a green room little secret just before we begin? Like, everyone sort of worked out that Levi McGrath's pretty hot looking guy, hey? Yes. And we're sitting in the lounge last night, and a little bit of a comparison thing happened. Because some would say that our senior pastor Ben Staines is a pretty good looking fella. Yeah. And well, he's been honest, and just in this moment of reflection, there was just a little bit of tension in the air of who is the best looking guy. Because we sort of behind his back, we sometimes call him the jock. And Levi could be the cheerleader. That could be said from time to time. But then Levi walks in the room, hey. And we're moving right along. So, Jason, we might start with you. Okay. Just share your heart really about what Kingdom Business means to you and just what you'd really love to invest in this session. Yeah. Thanks, man.
So, can I get on the whiteboard?
Go for it.
Can I do that? Okay.
Get us up for 20 minutes.
Okay, 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
I'll take 15 and leave time for a few questions. I want to give you something that no matter what business you're in, no matter what industry you're in, this can help you get on the right trajectory. This is what I do with my clients. So what you're getting, like you're getting a little freebie today, okay? So generosity, right? So yeah. Have you ever been stuck where you just like, oh man, how am I going to get out of this? What am I going to do? How are things going to change? So I want you to think about something real quick. I want you to write these down, okay? Write these questions down, and I want you to think. What is your greatest challenge right now, today? And I want you to take a minute and answer it. What is your greatest challenge right now in your business? Or if you're a minister. Bye, see you, buddy. Bye.
See you, Mitchie. You're cheeky. I'm cheeky.
No, he's good. He's good. Don't apologize. So what's your greatest challenge? All right. How long has it been an issue? Part of my job, well, really my main job, is to help bring clarity to people who are stuck where they are, right? In the States, there's three basic needs that and issues that people have, right, in their business. Is I am working too hard, not making enough money. Every pastor in the room said amen. I'm working too many hours, not spending enough time with my family. Let me just help pastors out with that. If you're a pastor in here and that's the issue, let me just help you with something. And I'll probably share this tonight, so you're going to get a preview. But Jesus never asked you to love his bride. Never asked you to love his bride. He said, if you love me, feed my sheep. Yeah. feed my sheep, and then you go home and love your bride. Yeah.
Right.
So, so anyway, okay, so there's those two things. And then the last one is I can't find, hire, and keep good people. Right? So those are kind of what I deal with and what I hear a lot. Okay, so what is your biggest challenge? How long has it been an issue? What have you done to try to correct it? Because sometimes we can just sit around and complain about why things aren't changing, but we're not doing anything in order to change it, right? There's no development going on. All right? Why didn't it work? Why didn't it work? And the last question is, how long do you want it to continue?
Very good.
And then that's where I pick up with folks, right? So we have a business assessment that we do with people. It looks at 18 different aspects of your business, from financials to culture to sales to strategic planning, all that stuff, okay? And we also have one for pastors as well, and it looks at 20 different things. And all of it just unearths the reality of where you are, right? And it's beautiful. And then so from there, we look at it and prioritize things. Okay, which one of the, okay, there's like 6 things that really you feel like are your biggest issues. Which one of these are your biggest struggles? Like if the building's on fire, like what do we, like this is a fire here. Which one do we need to put out first? Right? And so then we go about doing that. So we prioritize those things. Okay? Then we look at how, okay, then, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. All right, so let's look at this. So here's how you can begin to, once you've answered those questions, once you've done that, here's how you can begin to work this thing. All right? Strategically plan and think through things. All right? So what is the challenge? Okay? So say you have 6 things, like after, say you took our assessment, and there's 5 or 6 things that really stand out to you. So we prioritize that. Okay, so what are we going to do? All right, we're going to attack that one first. And so then you put that one right here. Boom. Okay? So then what are the obstacles that would hinder you from overcoming this? Right? And so you just list them. All right, anybody want to take a crack at it? Anybody want to give me your biggest challenge? You want a little free coaching session right here? Come on, I got 8 minutes. Okay?
Just getting people on board, getting business. I'm too quiet. I'm not getting enough people calling up.
Okay, tell me this.
I own my own travel business. I'm home-based.
Okay, home-based travel business. Okay. How long you been in business?
11 years.
11 years. Okay. Has there been a downturn, or like how long has this been going on?
It's kind of gone up and down. Like we mentioned, we were down in the Snowy Mountains.
Yep.
So one of the reasons we've come up here is opportunity again to bigger population base.
Yep.
To grow the business.
Sure.
So we've been here, 9 months, and
Okay.
I'm just not seeing that coming in with, with any phone calls, I suppose, and just getting people on board.
Yep.
So it's kind of went up, started to die off in the Snowy Mountains, put some more time into marketing, contacting people I had, existing clients, that type of thing, and then it started to die off again, so.
How do you normally drum up business? Is it just through referrals, or just cold calls, or how's that work?
It is both. I've just done an expo in Dubbo, which was basically cold just to try and get the name out here in Dubbo. But my business on board at the moment is probably 80 to 90% repeats or referral.
Okay. And so that means, I mean, that sounds like they're pretty satisfied with what you're offering.
Yes, they just need to book more.
Yeah, right. They need to go more. Come on.
You need to travel more.
Yeah, man, these are Aussies, man. They go all over the place all the time. They'll take 6 months and just go travel the world, you know? Yeah. Okay. So what would you say your biggest challenge is then?
Just the lack of volume, increasing the volume.
Okay.
My clientele base.
So, okay. Building a base. Okay. And you want to just go ahead and throw sales in here too?
Yeah.
Kind of, that's kind of what that is.
It's good to feed the family.
Yeah,
the boys
yeah.
are expensive.
Yeah. All right, good. So what have been the biggest obstacles for this?
Finance and time. Lack of finance.
Yeah. Okay. All right, time. All right, what else?
AA honesty.
Yes.
Me.
Okay.
Having the confidence to go out and cold call, or to push my business.
Okay. Lack of. All right. All right, what are some strategies then to overcome this? Whoops.
One method that is probably going back through I have on board already. I know some of you get my emails.
And how would you do that?
Asking for help, and having the conversations with my friends and family to ask for help, to say, listen, it's a business, it's not a hobby, it's, to feed my family, and part of it, as we were talking about it, is kingdom focused. I want to focus on missions. I want to focus on helping Christians, achieve their dream holidays, but getting them on board to...
Okay, let me ask you this. Who's your ideal client? Do you have an ideal client profile?
Depends on whether you're focusing on the money side or what I really, the heart side. The heart side is the school groups and the mission groups.
Okay.
And really getting them on board and helping people from the ground up, basically, building the missions trips and that.
Yeah.
The money side of it is my client who calls up and says, hey, we just saw this cruise for $40,000 each. And then you go, yes.
Cha-ching. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And that's okay. You're a business. You're like you're not running a charity, right?
I suppose my ideal clients are the ones that understand that I am a business. I have overheads. I have to charge fees or have a margin in order to actually run the business. And which there seems to be quite a lack of those.
Yeah. Here, I don't tell people what to do with their business, right? I try to help ask enough questions because right? But have you created one of these?
Not on paper.
Okay. Because here's something that I think that you could begin to consider. Like, would it make sense then because you have, if you already have 80 to 90% referrals and repeats, then wouldn't it make sense then to build an ideal client profile and then go to them and say, hey, could I take you to coffee? Like have you been pleased with what we've done and how we've served you? Absolutely. Well, can I take you to coffee and just ask you some, a few questions on how you could help me grow my business? And then you sit down with people and then you kind of develop, that's what I call it, but for the sake of, then you develop a trust list. Yeah. People who know you, people who like you, people who trust you. Yeah. Right?
And there's my repeats.
Yeah. So how many of those would you have?
Probably only a dozen.
Okay, so you have 12. So you've got 12 people who know you, like you, trust you, who have friends, who travel. right? So then here you go. You can say, all right, no, so these are the people that know me, like me, and trust me. I've done a good job for them. Would it make sense for you to compile this, whether it's the two different ones, like for a school or whatever, or just put it all on there, like I'm looking for this and or this, right? And this is spelled out. It's in it's on one page. I'm looking for a school a church, churches who take trips that I can help serve and get them where they need to go, all that kind of stuff, all right? So then you send them this and say, I would, how can how potentially could you help me grow my business? Can I take you to coffee to ask that? Yeah, sure, that'd be great. They're going to get a free cup of coffee out of it, right? And it's Australian coffee, so it's going to be great, right? It's going to be amazing. Man, when I was here last year for a month, I landed in Los Angeles at 7 in the morning. I got off I had a flat white every day for like 32 straight days. And I landed in Los Angeles like, oh man, I need a coffee. I'm dead. And I'm like, oh, it's Starbucks. It's Starbucks. And it was like drinking an ashtray. It was the worst thing I've ever had in my life. I spit it out. My mouth's like, this is not coffee. I threw it away.
I think Heidi exports to Georgia.
Oh yeah.
Oh, she will.
Yeah, bring it on. You need to come start a coffee house where we live. You'd make a killing. So here we go. So then you go take these people to coffee, and this is a discovery meeting, right? So you're saying, okay, I'm going to email you my ideal client profile, and so we can conserve time. Why don't you be thinking about who you might know that you could refer to me? And let me just rephrase that. It's not a referral. It's an introduction. Because referrals, that's where people stick their neck out for you. Wow. Introduction is safer for these people here. Because, let's just say you had a bad day and you dropped the ball and everything just was bad. Well, then, there's going to be, a conversation. Well, man, I thought you said you... No, I'm not. I'm just saying that she did a great job for me, and I just think you would enjoy meeting her and seeing what she could offer. There's a difference between a referral and an introduction. Those are huge, and you can make that distinction, right? So you come up with this, and you say, okay, let's come up with about 10 names. All right? So I'm no mathematician, but 10 times 12 is what? 120. So so there's 120 introductions, then that's 120 cups of coffee. However, you're probably not going to start with that. So let's go, okay, I don't want to put too much pressure and send like 10 emails out. Why don't we narrow it down to 3? Let's take it down to 3. Let's get 3 people who, on your list, that you really feel confident that man, they would really be interested. Okay, sure. But okay, I'll send you just a little form email that you can send them, make the introduction, and just take it from there. And then you can say, hey, I would love to meet you for coffee, and just see how I might be able to serve you and your family, or you and your school, or you and your business, or you and the church. And so then you go, so there's 3. Again, I'm no mathematician. 3 times 12 is 36. So you have, in essence, tripled your potential business just from doing a little bit of legwork. See what I'm saying? So here's that. Now, the biggest thing is you can have all of this right here, but if you don't put a time frame on it, you'll never do it.
Yeah.
So how long, so the question is for you to answer, is how long will it take you to develop this and to get this going here? If it's 3 months, that's cool. Meet with, 4 people, once, 1 or 2 a week. Yeah. Right? So it's not a lot. You can spread it out 3 months, But in 90 days, you could potentially begin the process of tripling your business just by doing one thing. Yeah. Right? And you're awesome. Right? and you're going to provide good service, and you're going to help people fulfill, maybe lifelong dreams. So don't feel like, and this right here is way better than cold calling, because it's built on what? Relationship. Yeah, there you go. My time's up.
Yeah.
So, yes, sir.
Jace, just a quick on that one too. A lot of JC's is also distance based.
Mm-hmm.
So as in the person will go and have a cup of coffee, which is awesome in that presence.
Mm-hmm.
For the distance one,
yep.
it's just as effective to picking up the phone call.
100%.
And
I wouldn't even pick up the phone. I would schedule a Zoom meeting or a Google Hangout or something like that where you can be face to face.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. Any questions around that? Comments or snide remarks? Open to all of them. Does this make sense?
That's right.
Yeah? Is that helpful? So you can see how this works. So in about 11 minutes, here is, the potential to triple your business with just one little thing.
Great. Awesome.
So, okay. Yeah, so put a time frame on it, 90 days. You're 90 days away from a better you in your business. There we go.
Right. Let's give him a clap. Just before Ben gets up, I really want to encourage you to take a photo of this, because what you might not understand, don't treat this like just one of those church sessions where someone whiteboarded information. There's people who charge $3,000 to $5,000.
Yeah.
He just cut all the fat off what people build businesses on with more content in 11 minutes than some other coaches. So just take a second, get a shot of that, and then spend 2 hours and reflect on probably $3,000 to $5,000 worth of information you didn't pay for.
Yeah, it's good.
Generosity Church. Thank you for being part of Generosity Church, Mr. Jason Spears. While you're here, you're part of us, by the way. All right, you're not the guest right now, you are. Awesome. All right, Ben. Yep. What do you say? They want Jason to pose. Yeah, Ben. Yeah, that's Ben's. That's Ben's content. Have you posted?
Best looking guy in the green room, and you know it.
Man crush right there.
Everything all right? Are we?
Whoa.
Hey guys, can we thank Matt? That was an incredible manoeuvre.
Yeah.
So I'm going to, oh, it's really loud. I'm going to try and work real quick. I've actually got a bit I want to talk into, and hopefully whether you're leading a business or leading a family or leading a small group, that there's some thoughts over the next few moments that I'm hopeful it'll help you, because there's one big thing that whether you're leading a small group of business or organisation that you have to answer, you have to be able to articulate an answer, and it's the value question. Wow. Yeah. You have to be able to articulate and say, what's the value here? And I think it needs to be asked whether you're offering a product, a good, or a service. That you actually have to ask it regularly. If you don't, what happens is that you will over time become irrelevant. You won't have longevity. And you'll see things, whether it's a group, you'll see things constrict or restrict, or business, you'll see it contract as well if you don't answer the value question. So I'm going to just draw a diagram, and as you'll see, I'm not a drawer at all, but I'll do my best to cover some things as we consider value. That's a good start, isn't it? All right. So we want to, because if you're leading an organisation or a business, you have to answer the value question. And so to help us out, what we want to do, this column represents what I would call perceived value. Now we could interchange these, but for this example we won't. I'm going to call this felt value. So in this column are people like bosses, the leaders, managers, owners. And over this side we've got people, we'll call them workers, followers, sorry for my writing, employees, and good old plebs. All right, so we want to address, if we don't address the value question or the value thing about value in relation to a product, good or service, actually over time I think we're going to be irrelevant. Whether we're talking about a group, like if you're leading a small group and there's not a value attached to it in some way, at some point or another, that thing's going to contract and fall over. So when we consider perceived value, mostly I'm going to suggest to you that in this column, if you're in this column, the perceived value of belonging to your group, belonging to your business, buying from your business, being a part of your organisation, is often, not always, but is often overstated.
Yeah.
So if I'm the boss, of course everyone wants to buy off me. All right, or if I'm the leader of this small group, why would I not have the biggest small group in the Asia Pacific? All right, because that's my level of perceived value. But if I'm over this side, unfortunately, often, this is what I would call is understated.
That's great.
Not always true, but often. So if I'm in this group, often it's overstated the value of belonging to or buying off you. But if I'm in this group, I think the felt value of that product, that good, that service, that whatever's happening, that association, the felt value is different. So what we have is a problem. But it's really important to know that that's not wrong or right, and that's not wrong or right, they just are. That's not our problem. Our problem isn't necessarily that or that. The problem is we've got a gap in between here. And it's a gap in value. They would articulate the value in a certain way. That's the perceived value in this example of a good product or service. Whereas on this side, the felt value, if you're a worker or employee, who knows that employees and employers think very differently. And their perception of what's going on, the perception of working in this environment, the perception of being part of this environment is different. It's not wrong or right, it's just that perception.
Sure.
So, but we've got a problem, we've got a gap, and I think we need to work around that gap or bridge that gap. Otherwise, at some point in time, in order to maintain relevance, performance, and longevity, we need to bridge that gap. If we're thinking about value, and I want to be around for a long time, and if we're thinking about value, and I want to have high levels of performance, and if we're thinking about value, and we want to do well as an organisation, business, or group, the problem isn't here or here per se, the problem's in here. There's a big gap, there's a difference in value. So what I'm going to suggest to you is 4 key things that if you can address, have conversations, have meetings, get a team in, get some key stakeholders in, that I think that if you build, we can actually build a bridge, all right, because we have a problem in the value of what's going on here. All right, these aren't wrong, they just are, they just exist. I guarantee if I don't know who's in the room collectively, but if you're sitting next to your boss today, the value you feel of working for that boss is very different to how your boss feels. Yeah. They think you're the most blessed employee in the Asia Pacific. It's very unlikely that you feel the same. So what we have is there's a huge gap in value. Okay, the value of belonging to this, or the value of working here, or the value of being part of this small group is different from the perceived value is often different to the felt value. So I think we want to be able to build, the problem exists in here, so let's fix that, what's in here. Because if we can fix that, what we're going to create is what I would call our actual value.
That's great.
All right. Now, as we work through this over the next few moments, this point here is fluid. Because once we wrestle, we're going to consider 4 key elements. Once we wrestle with these 4 key elements, sometimes, at some point, depending on what's going on and the timing of everything, sometimes it's going to be a bit closer to this edge. And other times it might be closer to this edge. But what we have to establish, what the actual value of belonging to this or buying this product, what the actual value of being part of this organisation, or what's the actual value in working here, or what's the actual value in being part of this program, or what's the actual value. If we can do that, we can actually determine the actual value. Really, it's not going to work for everybody, but it's not going to be here and it's not going to be here. But we have to determine what's the actual value of belonging. Or what's the actual value in buying from your business? Or what's the actual value in being a part of what's going on here? So we're going to work through 4 things. First one I would suggest, and they're not in order, but I just think that you need to table them. All right. In order, I think, to determine actual value, we need to determine, okay, what are the expectations?
Yeah, that's good.
And this is tricky because it's a moving target. And that's why we need to regularly ask the value question.
Yeah.
Because it's a thing that moves. And certainly even in a modern society, with the compression of time and technology and all that, things are moving quicker. And change is moving quicker. And the knowledge base is increasing. It's not getting smaller, it's getting wider. So the rhythm of determining actual value, okay, we need to talk about expectations. Okay, and we need to establish, okay, well, what are the expectations in this column? And what are the expectations over here? Because they're 2 different things, but they have to be part of the conversation. Because as a boss, my expectations are that I make a profit. But if I'm over this side, as a purchaser, I don't care about your profit.
Yeah. It's good.
You have to establish that in your travel industry. I don't care whether you make money or not. And I'm a reasonably nice guy. You asked Libby, we heard earlier. I actually, as a customer, I don't care.
Yeah.
All right, because I'm over this side.
Yeah.
All right, you're looking at the same thing. All right, but we need to establish, you need to establish actual value. And just one of the things I've discovered when you talk to people who love Jesus and put the kingdom of God first and all that, and they want to have a kingdom business, it's one thing I don't think they do, and you may have, is they don't differentiate, okay, am I in here from a ministry perspective or a commercial perspective?
Yeah. Very good.
If you can address that, I think that'll help. And it's not wrong or right, you just got to decide what it is. Because your in and out number for being part, if I'm doing this for a ministry, your out number is different to your commercial, okay, the get out door is at a different level. But you just got to decide, okay, am I doing this for a commercial reason, which I would suggest your kids love to eat, or am I doing this for a ministry perspective? Because they're different.
Can't you both?
Yeah, you got to have, one's got to be, that's the problem. You can do both. It's got to be either ministry before but not without commercial, or it's because they have different because the main reason for doing it is either a ministry perspective. You can do both, but the one's got to go before the other, and that's part of the reason sometimes we get murky, particularly with a kingdom perspective, because churches do it really badly. So they put on and we've had a guy who worked for who did consulted with our church, and he put us onto it. He said, I'm shutting more church cafes now than ever before. And the reason is that they don't decide from the beginning whether this is a commercial thing or a ministry thing. Because if it's a ministry thing, I'm prepared to wrap it in the budget, find it in the budget and say, okay, well, we're prepared to lose, if you like, some finance because we see it as a ministry thing. But if it's a commercial venture, well, this is at this point, we're going to shut it. So you can do both. It's just saying, okay, which one's going to come first? Which is our, so definitely do both. But which one's going to be, where's our out on this? Is it a ministry firstly, all right, or is it commercial firstly? It's not wrong or right, you just got to decide what it is.
Yeah,
that's true.
So actual value, so expectations. So it's a moving target for, and interestingly enough, this is why I think you've got to do it regularly, it's a moving target for both those in this column and those in this column. And see if it's regular about this identifying, okay, what are the expectations as a business owner? Maybe you're nearing the end of your business life and you want to go and retire. Well, your expectations about what's going on are different than if you've just started.
Yeah.
So it's a moving target. So we've got to establish the expectations, or we could say, okay, what are the motivations? If I'm going to determine and help work through what the actual value is, what are the motivations for the workers, or what are the motivations for the employees, or why am I motivated by the ministry part of this, or am I motivated by the commercial part of this?
Yeah.
All right, expectations. Let's have some conversations. Let's have some thoughts. Let's have a mastermind group or a think tank or a team or whatever it might be, the executive team or whatever it might be, because we need to bridge this gap. Because I think it's worth X amount to be part of what's going on. This side thinks differently, so we've got a problem, but we've got to be able to bridge this gap in order to help determine, for everybody to determine what's the actual value in buying your product, or what's the actual value of being part of what's going on here. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Right. Yeah, good.
Number 2 is we need to have a conversation around alternatives. So if I buy a car from you, what alternatives do I have close by? Or if I'm part of a particular association, or if I'm part of a certain group, or if I'm part of a group, what are the alternatives around that? What are the options, if you like? What's the competition doing? What are maybe the features that, there are different ways to look at it, the point of difference, the magic factor, the X factor, all those sorts of things. But in the conversation, I think in order to determine actual value, to bridge this gap, okay, let's consider the alternatives. Let's consider what else can the people in this column do?
Yeah.
What else can the people in this column do? Now, there's a whole lot of things to talk about and throw around. It might be what they call vertical integration or horizontal integration, depending on whether you buy or sell another business or organisation or whatever it might be. But there are different ways we need to consider the alternatives about what's going on here. Because if we're not thinking about it's not necessarily following a competition, but it's being aware, okay, well, this is the market I'm in, this is the group, this is the challenge, whatever it might be. I need to have it part of the conversation and the strategic planning in order to determine actual value, because there's such a big difference at times between people who sit over here and the people who sit here. But I need to be part of the conversation. It needs to be, okay, what are the alternatives here? Who am I competing against? What am I competing against? What are the features of our product, our good, our service, our group, whatever it might be, that would actually speak in and leak into that in determining the actual value of being a part of what's going on, of what we're trying to sell, what we're trying to do, all those sorts of things. Number 3. I'm only just giving you headlines today because of time. Hope it's okay. Is communication. One of the big challenges, I think, particularly is the what, the who, the why, and the where of communication. Because if I'm in this column, if I haven't, what I think the value is might actually be correct completely, but if I've communicated it badly, why would I have a different perception? Yeah. You may have the best product, you may have the best group, you may have the best thing going on, but if I haven't communicated it in such a way... See, one of the great things I think about when we establish actual value, because people make decisions, that have often it's emotional value.
Yeah. It's good.
How does it make me feel? Yeah. Who can I be like? That identity thing. And a lot of the time it's around, the actual value is around that what it does for me emotionally. And then we make it work in our head. Of course it's a great idea. Of course you need that. Of course so-and-so's wearing it, so I need it. So communication is such an important thing. How do I communicate being a part of this group? How do I communicate? How is that communicated? And we probably need to be smarter than saying, okay, this is the value of shopping here. We need to be a bit more clever than that. But it actually needs to be communicated in order to establish actual value. How is that communicated? Do we bring, it's like Jason shared earlier about, okay, you've got your 12 clients already, all right, talking to them, speaking to them. Okay, how can you get some feedback from them about, okay, what are some things that we could do to make your experience with us greater? All right, so you're asking people in this column, all right, because we have to fix this gap. If we're going to establish the actual value in order to move forward as an organisation, a business or a group, we actually need to really work. We need to be very careful and mindful about how we communicate and what that sounds like, what it looks like. Is that message consistent? Is that message portable? Is it memorable? All those sorts of things, because we actually need to address the value thing. Because if you don't, things will go down south very quickly. Because, okay, let's put it like this. As Christian as we are in this room today, if you found out, and who knows, if you found out that the electives, and part of this conference, we had one elective, you could do a knitting elective. The next one, you could do a dog grooming one. And there'd be one that'd be for the petrol heads. All right, and there'd be a fortnight elective. Who'd be cheering? Who'd be coming? What? It doesn't add value to you. For most of us, if we're honest enough, I mean, Libby and I come because we have to be here, I suppose. But we want it to be a valuable experience.
Yeah, it's great.
Our team wants it to be a valuable experience. My hope is that, that there's some pragmatic things to it. There's very much a spiritual dynamic to it. But it has to add value.
Yeah.
It has to. You came, and maybe you're here today because in this session, and maybe not in another session because you went to something similar yesterday, because in an unselfish way, in a human Elijah-like way, you just want to have some things in your life that add some value. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not evil. It's not wrong. But so many of our decisions are based on the value thing and how that's communicated. Sometimes it's done well, sometimes it's not. But we need to, I think, in establishing actual value, we need to work through our communication. And lastly, I've got 2 minutes, is we need to have a conversation around what I would call, and you see it a lot in sales, is costs versus benefits. And part of that, you engage your marketing team and all that sort of thing in the conversations, and all these things, they pop up from time to time. But if I'm on this side, I think more about this. But if I'm on this side, I guarantee you I'm thinking more about that.
Yes, that's true.
But what we need to determine is this moving point. All right, it's a moving point. It's not fixed. It's a moving point. All right, and that's why we actually regularly need to, as an organisation, as a business owner, as a leader, whatever it might be. Okay, let's run through this. Let's act as a filter, I think, in bridging this problem between perceived value and felt value. I feel it's worth this. I think it's worth this. All right, well, let's find out what it's worth really. Because you have to determine, you have to answer the value thing. And I think if we run through that filter, okay, what are the expectations here? Consider both columns. What are the alternatives here? Consider both columns. How do we communicate this? Are we giving our customers the opportunity to communicate their experience with us? And what are the costs and benefits? For both, if we make a decision over this side, there's a cost involved, and we also need to consider the benefits. But, if I'm over this side, okay, well, I consider the costs. And I also just want to finish by saying, sometimes when we determine value, it's not just, often, particularly in a business session like this, often we think about it in financial terms. So we're not just talking about finance. The value question can be answered in terms of relationships. Can be answered in terms of synergy. Okay, if we as a business and your business work together, we can both achieve much more than just if we were on our own. The value question can be answered in terms of spiritual. There's a spiritual connection here, and God's sort of doing something there, and there's value to both of us being in partnership and relationship with one another. It could be historical, it could be in terms of resource, it could be in terms of what's ahead in the future, and it could also be in terms of philosophical. Okay, there's a commonality here that we need to, create an environment, if you like, where there's value, and we've got to determine that. And sometimes value is in those terms. We like each other, so let's do life together. All right, it's a philosophical thing. It's tied into relationship. So when we think about value, we have to answer, no matter what we're leading or what our business area or industry is engaging, we have to answer the value question. Because if you're not asking it, they are.
Very good.
They are, I guarantee it. They are asking it.
So true.
All right, no matter what you put on, doesn't matter what industry you're in, you have to answer the value problem. And the problem isn't here, or here. The problem exists in here. And I think if you can run that filter, we can establish, okay, well, what's the actual value here? This is a moving point, but we need to answer it.
Awesome.
Thanks, Matt.
Awesome. Give him an applause. What you just saw then weren't so much seeing Senior Pastor Ben Staines of Generosity Church speak, but much rather a professional consultant giving you a model and a filter that could pretty much fix anything people are organisationally focused. So if you've got your phones, take a photo, because that's worth a lot of money as well, right there. I can see brother from over in Coffs Harbour just focused right there, because you do this every day, mate. So we've got 10 minutes left, and so I'll just jump in the road. So if you've got any questions, this is a really good moment to ask two professionals in their field some good questions. So anyone got any questions?
Yeah, I'd like to ask Jason a question.
Yeah, can we just pop that mic over there?
So obviously you're working with a lot of business people in your career, obviously. What would you feel the biggest hurdle that most of those people have got to overcome, and then how do you navigate through that?
Everybody's different. Everybody has different issues, and everybody has different struggles, be it in their business or personally. And a lot of times I'm finding that most people's struggles in their business is because they're having personal issues that they've been unwilling to deal with, and so those come up. Like the greatest thing I can offer potential clients or clients is the ability to ask powerful questions.
Great.
And in doing so, it just leads people to discover things for themselves. And so then we just go from there. So there's not really one specific thing that I see that people have to overcome. I mean, it's a lot of things. But I mean, seriously, I work with different people through all different types of industry. Like I had a $30 million construction company that the dad was trying. He said, I want you to help me determine which of my two sons I give the business to.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Who work for him. Yeah, that was fun. But also, a client is a sod farm that sells grass. I mean, not marijuana, but like grass.
Thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah, just making sure.
Thank you. We're not sure in Georgia.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, Colorado, it'd be a different story. Yeah, for medicinal. From a cataracts. That's kind of what that is.
You sure you got cataracts?
Yes. So it's all like Pastor talked about. Things are fluid. There's not just one thing. It's different industries, it's different struggles, and that's what makes it so much fun for me, because it keeps it fresh, right? And it's not just one thing that I'm doing with people, but it's something new every single day. And but if there is one thing, it's that typically most people they just keep themselves in the way of their business becoming more successful.
Wow.
Yeah.
We've got a question down here, and then we'll take one up the back next.
Jason, particularly working with millennials in business who love, like maybe the 9-month entrepreneurial, set up a business and then they get bored with it. Is there anything or any way that we can actually help support millennials in that, where they want to keep startup?
Yeah.
Can you speak into that a bit?
Yeah, millennials have to have a coach.
Yes.
Have to, 100%. If you're a millennial and you're starting a business and you're entrepreneur or whatever, in order to stay the course, you've got to have somebody in your life who can challenge you to continue to move forward. Like you got to have somebody to speak in your life that is going to ask you the hard questions. Why are you giving up so soon? Why aren't you staying the course here? What's shifted in you? And it's encouraging. I mean, like to me personally, everybody needs a coach.
Yes, oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Everybody needs one.
Yes.
I mean, you got one sitting in here. You got two sitting in here, right? But everybody, I have one. I have one. I pay for one. I work with the firm, right? Yeah. I work with a firm based out of Ottawa. Yeah. And so I have a coach within our organization, right? So, you can't do it by yourself. Yes. We're just not good enough. Yeah, that's right. Nobody's that good enough. So I think for millennials especially, you got to encourage millennials to have somebody who can keep them here. Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Great. Up the back.
So I'm an electrician, so I run a service-based business. When you were talking about finding your ideal client, so for me at the moment, mine is builders, so guys doing renovations, that's my ideal client at the moment. But at the moment with my work, I'm in a gap where their work, I'm not needed in that stage. So is it important for me to have obviously more than one ideal client? So do I try and market half my business to homeowners or commercial businesses to balance that gap, or where do I go from there?
Yeah, sure. It's always good to have multiple streams of income. Yeah. Right? You want to have different ways. You don't want to get just pigeonholed into one thing because that could dry up. And so when the brook Cherith dries up, where do you go from there, right? Yeah. So it's okay, well, I need to do this. So it's always good to have different lines in the water, yes. Yeah. So you've got, you're going after whales, right, in bigger companies, but you're also just fishing for, what's a small fish around here?
Trout.
Yeah, just little minnow. Yeah, but yeah.
White pointer.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just your everyday little fish you're going for.
Just a creek fish.
So you can go out and try to, land a great white, which would, all you have to do is throw your body in there, and then there'd be no problem. But having multiple streams of income, having multiple lines in the water to go after, different opportunities and to land potential clients is always a good idea. Yeah.
So I've only got a little bit of time left, so I'm actually going to ask a big question to both of you, and that is, and it's sort of probably even a white elephant in the room, is this confusion around business and ministry and the focus for Christian business people about how they focus forward, because is the money thing the right thing? Is the people thing the right thing? With them crossing over, is that compromising my faith and my values? Can you maybe speak into that a bit? And both of you would see that both in the church and the business realm, because it would be a question that always comes up for a lot of people.
My answer would be yes. Yeah, exactly. Look, I think one of the challenges for us is we're so black and white.
Yes.
I think we're so it's got to be this or it's got to be that. For me, one of the best things I heard, and it was about priorities, is that you can either have them in a list or you can have them all sitting on the horizon. And one has your attention more than the other. It's not that one's more important necessarily. Like come June 30, the most important thing for your business really in June, July is that the finances are you're ready to go, so you know what the next financial year is going to be like. But come November, maybe you're thinking about Christmas parties, and that could be, it's important, it's, it builds morale, all that sort of thing. So I think in the same sort of principle works. Jesus has to be first, and the kingdom of God has to be first, unquestionably. Yeah. But sometimes that has more of your attention for a different reason. Like, we've got 4 kids. If one of them is really chronically sick, well, they've got our attention. Doesn't mean we don't love the others. The others are important. Yeah. They might feel like it, but it's not true. But it's not true, all right? So it's just that for this moment in time, that has our attention. That needs to be fixed. We need to, put that fire out in order to... so rather than, say, linear, such as, I think the horizon thing, is a way to look at it. And I think it's... Caleb touched on the thought process a little bit earlier. In early Jewish culture, you wouldn't have had a spiritual life and a physical life. Yeah. It's just, and so part of Greek, we're so influenced by Greek thinking. It was we've separated it. It's a bit like that's my secular job, and that's my ministry job. What's your job?
Yeah.
All right, make it all work. All right, and the person who preaches on a Sunday, it's great, it's wonderful. But I got a friend. He's here. He's got a man crush on me. He's been open about that in Wagga. Anyway, he gets to, and he's a professional golfer. So his ministry platform has nothing to do with the microphone. It's got everything to do with the golf club.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. So what's more important? That's even the wrong question.
Right.
Very good.
That's not why we're asking those questions.
Right.
Good.
All right, so I think that, that's just the wrong question. I just think, okay, what's God called me to do? What's God called me to walk out? And how can I champion what God's called you to walk out? Sometimes it's not an either-or thing. I think we're too black and white on a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, life is more gray than anything.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully not 50 Shades of it. but
Focus.
ring-a-ding-ding.
Focus.
Now listen, think about this for a second. Naaman, remember him? Naaman in the Bible, he had leprosy. He goes and goes to the prophet, and the prophet says, "Okay, here, now you're healed. Okay, good." So Naaman's leprosy is healed. He now understands that he is your God just healed me, so I need some dirt from here to take back home with me. Give me enough dirt for my mule. Because they believed that, gods were regional. Right? And so he's like, your God is the one true God. Let me take some dirt from here so I can take him back with me. So when I worship, I'm going to basically put this dirt out and I'm going to worship him. But then Naaman asks, he says, okay, now, but there's this one little thing I need you to think about, because I'm the right hand of the king. And so the king is going to kneel to Baal or whoever it was. And the king is older, but he needs to lean on my arm when he kneels to worship, which is going to require me to do the same. So I'm going to have to kneel, but in reality, I'm not really kneeling. But I'm going to have to do this. So right out of the gate, Naaman says, I want to worship your God. He healed me. Thanks be to God. Give me some dirt. He's kind of a new believer. And so he says, hey, I just want to make sure that it's cool. And that now our God will forgive me for what I'm going to have to do. Because it's my job. The king leans on my... What does Elijah say to him? 3 words. Go in peace.
Yeah.
What? And wow. Because I'm going to have to kneel. Think about this for a second. I'm going to have to kneel now. Even though my knees are, my heart's not. However, it's going to allow me to stay in proximity of the king to the point that when he touches my arm, there's not going to be any more leprosy there. He knew, he sent me away to see if I could get healed. And now I am. So now when he touches my arm, I've got a story to tell.
Yeah, that's cool.
So it's a lot more gray than it is black and white, eh?
Yeah.
And so as we push forward, as we do things, as we move ahead, think about ways that our business can bring us in proximity of people to let them see that we've been healed.
Right.
That's good.
Awesome. All right, well, we're out of time, guys. I reckon there's about another 20 questions we could ask because this is the guts of what this is about. But have you enjoyed this session? Very. You've learned some things? Yeah, give them applause.